A lot of people being like, please be generous on your marking students tardy. Just don't mark them tardy at this point, I guess. And the automatic marking late has been shut off on the positive attendance. Thank you.
All right, guys. So this is test one review. Okay. Feel free to fast forward and rewind and pause and whatever you need to do to get these right and get some help. Okay, so here's question one. So this is an absolute value inequality. You have to know the steps for absolute value inequalities in order to get this right. So step one is to get the absolute value alone, which it is. Step two is to make it an equal sign. So it looks like that. Step three is to split it in two. So it looks like that. Step four is to solve. So the 2 comes over and becomes a negative. And then you divide by -3, and you have -2/3. This one, bring your 2 over, it becomes a negative. This should be -4, sorry. It becomes a -2. So a -4 and a -2 is a -6 right there. Divide by -3 and you get x equals 2. Then you go to your number line. You've got a -2/3 on the left, a 2 on the right. I do have an equal sign, so my circles are closed. My symbol is less than, so I shade between, okay? It wants it in interval notation, so that's -2/3 with a bracket to 2 with a bracket, and that is your final answer. That would be what you highlight, okay? Nice and neat work, okay? Number 2, same steps, just apply them to this problem, okay? Step 1, get the absolute value alone. So move that 2 over and it becomes a negative. Step 2, or no, continue to get it alone. Divide by a negative, reverses the inequality, changes the sign. Next step, make it an equal sign. Next step, split it in 2 and drop them. Drop the symbols. 5 comes over and becomes a positive. So I have 3x equals 16. Divide, and I get 16 over 3. Over here, bring your 5 over, it becomes a positive. So 3x equals -6. So x equals -2. So -2 is there. 16/3 is there. No equal sign, so open. You do not look here to see where to shade. You look at once the absolute value is alone. So that would be greater than. In interval form, it's -infinity to a -2 with a parenthesis. Union, 16/3 to infinity with a parenthesis, and that's it. Okay? Number 3. Basically, they're asking, is it a function? Okay? So you have x is second minus y equals 10. You guys, I can tell right now that the answer is yes. I know it's a function. And that is because I'm looking at this y, and it's just a y to the first. So if you have a y squared, if you have an absolute value of y, that's when you're going to get no's. But this is a yes. Then they want, I am recording, get out of my room. I'm seriously recording.
Hello everybody. How are you doing?
Go away. That is my friend,
Go Utes.
Mrs. Leedy. Okay, so pull the x squared over, it becomes a negative. Change my signs. Looks like that. Okay. So find the domain. Do I have a fraction with an x on the bottom? Nope. Do I have an even root on the top? Nope. Do I have an even root on the bottom? Nope. I have no restrictions, therefore the domain is all real numbers. Okay? It says to justify, don't worry about that. Okay, so question B is nice because it is not a function because the y is squared, and therefore I don't even have to find the domain, so I'm done. This one right here, Okay, so this is kind of strange, but this is a function. I don't have any of these things going on, so it is a function. So the answer is yes. Find the domain. I have a fraction with an x on the bottom, so the bottom cannot be 0. So x squared cannot be 9, and then I square root, and x cannot be equal to plus or minus 3. Put a D and a colon and label it like that, okay? All right, question 4a. This is h of x divided by g of x. See that bar right there? I'm going to make it long. Up above that, write your h of x, which is 2x minus 4. Underneath it, write your g of x, which is 3x over x minus 4. Now I'm going to make that long division line a division symbol. So it looks like that. Put a 1 underneath it. Change your division to a multiplication and flip the second guy upside down. And now nothing will cancel. So on the bottom I have a 3x. On the top I have to FOIL. On the quiz some of you guys were not foiling that correctly. So it's just 2x times x, which is 2x squared. 2x times a negative 4 is a negative 8x. A negative 4 times x is a negative 4x. A negative 4 times a negative 4 is a positive 16. So your final answer is 2x to the second minus 12x plus 16 all over 3x. Nothing will cancel because there is not a number that goes into 2, 12, 16, and 3. And you can't take out any x's because this 16 does not have an x, okay? They are not asking me for domain, so that's the answer. Okay, question B, 4b, they want the domain of g of x, okay? So here is your g of x. I don't have any even roots, but I do have an x on the bottom. So the bottom cannot be 0, therefore x cannot be 4. And we're going to say domain colon like that, okay? Question 4c, find f of 3. Well, if you look up above, f of x is the square root of x plus 3. So you just put in x plus 6, pardon me. So you just put in a 3. You get 3 plus 6, that's 9. The square root of 9 is a 3. You do not put a plus or minus in front of that. The reason is the square root was already there. You didn't come up with it. If it was like this, x squared equals 9, you take the square root. That's x equals plus or minus 3. That's a plus or minus. If it's there to begin with, it's not the minus, it's just the plus. Okay, question 4d. This means take f of x and add h of x. So your f of x is a square root. Your h of x is 2x minus 4. Literally, that's all you can do. There's nothing you can do. Okay, question 4e. They're asking you to take h of x and add g of x. So your h of x is 2x minus 4, and you're adding g of x, which is 3x over x minus 4. In order to add fractions, I have to get a common denominator, which is going to be x minus 4. This guy's missing the x minus 4. So I have to take those two guys and multiply those together, and right here I FOIL. So 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times negative 4 is negative 8x. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. And negative 4 times a negative 4 is a positive 16. This guy has the x minus 4, so I'm just going to write down the plus 3x. Now I'm going to clean it up, so it's 2x to the second. A negative 8 and a negative 4 is a negative 12. Plus 3 is a negative 9x. Plus 16 over x minus 4. Nothing will cancel. Okay? Question 4f. Find g of m plus 2. Well, if you look up above, g of x is 3x over x minus 4. So right here and right there, I'm just going to put in m plus 2. So it's 3 times m plus 2 over m plus 2 minus 4. There is zero benefit to putting parentheses around that m plus 2 on the bottom, and it's confusing. So don't do it. Okay, on the top, distribute the 3m plus 6. On the bottom, that gives you m minus 2. Nothing will simplify and you're done. Okay? All right, question 5a. So 5a asks you to take your f of x, which is right here, and multiply it by your g of x, which is right here. Some of you are cross multiplying right here. You do not cross multiply these. The only time you cross multiply is if you have an equal sign in between, and we do not. So you cannot cross multiply. But one thing you can do, this x minus 4 cancels with that x minus 4, and you must cancel those. So your answer is you have a 2x minus 1 on the top and a 3x plus 2 on the bottom, and you're done. Now they are asking you for domain, so this is a restriction and this is a restriction. So I know that x cannot be equal to 4. Say that can't be equal to 0, and you get x cannot be equal to negative 2/3. There's your domain. Don't just write x can't be this, x can't be that. Label it, domain colon, okay? All right, here's question 5b. This means take f of x and subtract g of x. So here is your f of x. And I'm subtracting this g of x. Okay, so in order to add or subtract, I have to get a common denominator. So I'm just going to pull those two things together. So this guy has the x minus 4. He's missing the 3x plus 2. You guys, the way that I've written it right there is wrong, because this entire thing is multiplied by that entire thing. So you have to throw parentheses around it, and you're foiling. When you FOIL, you get 6x to the second plus 4x minus 3x minus 2. This guy has the 3x minus 2. He's missing the x minus 4. That's written wrong. It has to be like this. You have to be very careful. So write that negative down, then in parentheses, FOIL. That would be x to the second minus 8x plus 16. The negative, you have to distribute that. So you have 6x to the second plus x minus 2. Distribute the negative, negative x to the second plus 8x minus 16. Make sure you keep writing the denominator over and over. You can't just write the top and then stick the bottom at the end. So 6x squared minus 1x squared is 5x squared. 8x plus 1x is 9x. A negative 2 and a negative 16 is a negative 18. That's all over that denominator, and you're done. Okay, they are asking you for the domain, so all you have to do is look throughout the entire problem. Anything in the denominator is a restriction, so x cannot be 4 and x cannot be a negative 2/3, just like on the previous question. Okay, all right, here's 5c. It says take f of x and divide it by g of x. So I'm going to make that a big long division sign. Up above, write down your f of x. Underneath, write down your g of x. So it looks like that. Now I'm going to write it as 2x minus 1 over x minus 4 divided by x minus 4 over 3x plus 2. Some of you canceled right here on the quiz, and you cannot do that because this is a division problem. So you can't cancel until it's a multiplication. So make it a multiplication, flip it upside down, looks like that, nothing cancels. On the top and the bottom, you have to FOIL. So when you FOIL the top, you get 6x to the second plus 4x minus 3x is a plus 1x minus 2. FOIL the bottom, x to the second minus 8x plus 16, and you're done. Okay, they are asking you for domain, so look at those denominators. X cannot be 4, and also x cannot be equal to negative 2/3. Be careful that you don't write it like this, because last semester they told me they would no longer accept that. Okay, so be careful. Okay, here's question 5D. They're asking you to find f of negative 2 and add it to g of negative 2. I noticed on the quiz, some of you are doing it all the crazy work right inside there. I don't recommend that. I think it's asking for trouble. So when you find f of negative 2, it's 2 times negative 2 minus 1 over negative 2 minus 4. 2 times negative 2 is a negative 4 minus 1 is a negative 5. And negative 2 minus 4 is a negative 6. And negative over negative is a positive. So that's 5, 6. Now I'm going to find g of negative 2. So I do the same thing, put it in my g of x. So that's negative 2 minus 4, 3 times negative 2 plus 2. So that gives me a negative 6. On the bottom, negative 6 plus 4 is a negative. Plus 2 is a negative 4. Those cancel, and it reduces to 3 over 2. So I'm going to come over here and make it 3 over 2. Now I have to get a common denominator, which is 6. This guy already had the 6. 2 times 3 is 6, so 3 times 3 is 9. That gives me 14 over 6, which reduces to 7/3. Leave it just like that. Okay, here's 6a. So on 6a, domain is x. Start at the left. No matter how far I go to the left, I'm going to hit that graph. So it goes from negative infinity all the way to the right at the point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but it does not touch the 6, so I close it with a parenthesis. Part B is range. That keeps going down and down forever. So that's negative infinity up to a positive 4. Even though the circle's open on the right, it still touches it on the left, so it's a 4 with a bracket. Question C. So this is kind of awkward. There are 3 x-intercepts, but one of them is not clean. So I just wanted you to come up with those other 2 that are actually like clean. So they are 0, 0, and 5, 0. You can't guess on the other one. Question D. Name the y-intercept. That's just 0, 0. Question E. Local maximum value. You need to understand that that's a y equals. The maximum is left 2 up 4. The y value is 4, so it's y equals 4. Question F, find f of 3. That's an x value. So if you go over to an x value of 3, where are you? Down 4, looks like that. Some of you did this on the quiz. You wrote that on the line and that on the line. It is not the point unless they say point, okay? Question G, increasing, decreasing constant, start at the left. As I travel from the left to the right, it's increasing from negative infinity to an x value of negative 2. Then it decreases from an x value of negative 2 to an x value of positive 2. Then it goes constant from an x value of 2 to an x value of 4. Then it increases again from an x value of 4 to an x value of 6. Do not put a u in between on increasing, decreasing constant. Question H, it has a local maximum point. That's when you write it as an ordered pair. That is negative 2, positive 4. Question I, if f of x is 4, what's x? Well, they're saying if y is 4, what's x? So look at the graph, go up 4, go to the left on the graph. What's that ordered pair? Negative 2, 4. So if y is 4, what's x? Negative 2. Okay, number 7, even, odd, or neither. So 7a, here's your equation. So you have to find f of negative x. So I'm going to go in parentheses, negative x to the third minus in parentheses x. You have to show that. Negative to the third is a negative, x to the third. A negative times a negative is a positive x. Now I'm going to find negative f of x, which means take that guy and change the signs. So negative x to the third plus x. And now I'm comparing this to this to this. The negative equals the negative. Some of you are just saying, yay, my answer's odd. You have to say y. So you have to say f of negative x is equal to negative f of x. Therefore, the answer's odd. Odd is the only thing you're going to highlight. Okay, 7b. Here's your equation. First thing you're going to do is find f of negative x. So it looks like this. Negative, parenthesis, negative x squared plus 4. Negative to the second is a positive, but you have a negative out in front. So it's really a negative. Then your x's squared plus 4. Well, I found two that are the same. So I can stop. I don't have to do that other one. So I'm going to say f of x is equal to f of negative x. Negative equals negative means odd. So this guy is even. The only thing you have to highlight is the answer. Okay? 7c, f of x is equal to negative absolute value of x minus 5. So I'm going to find f of negative x. So it's negative x minus 5. Then I'm going to find negative f of x. That's like this, guys. Look, negative absolute value of x minus 5. Well, a negative times a negative is a positive. So there you go. So I'm comparing this to this to this. This guy right here, he's not going to be equal to anything because these guys have a negative in front and that one doesn't. And these absolute values will always be a positive sign. So this guy will always be positive and these guys will always be negatives. Now let's see if those two are the same. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go table. I'm going to find my f of x. I'm going to find my f of negative x. Let's say x was a 2. Don't use zeros because that's not going to do any good. If you do 2, then look right here. You're going to have 2 minus 5. Well, 2 minus 5 is a negative 3. Absolute value of negative 3 is a 3, but there was a negative in front of it. Right here, that'd be negative 2 minus 5. That's negative 7. Absolute value of negative 7 is 7, but there's a negative in front of it. So now I know that f of x is not equal to f of negative x, which is not equal to negative f of x. Therefore, the answer is neither, and that's what I box or highlight. Okay, question 8. Okay, number 8. Find the average rate of change. Here's your equation. And they want it from negative 1 to a positive 1. Okay, so average rate of change just means slope, but I can't find the slope unless I know the y's. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go f of negative 1 equals, in parentheses, negative 1 to the third minus 4 times negative 1. A negative 1 to an odd exponent is negative. 1 to the third is a 1. A negative 4 times a negative 1 is a positive 4, and that gives me a 3. So if x is a negative 1, y is a 3. Next one, f of 1 equals 1 to the third minus 4 times 1. 1 to the third is 1. Negative 4 times 1 is a negative 4. That gives me a negative 3. Now use the slope formula. So it's negative 3 minus 3 is equal to 1 minus a negative 1. That's 1 plus 1. So that's a negative 6 over 2, which is a negative 3. And I'm done. 8b. Same equation. This time they want it from 2 to 4. So I'm going to come down here. F of 2 is 2 to the third minus 4 times 2. Put it in your calculator. Do it in your head, whatever, and you get 0. This guy right here, f of 4, is equal to 4 to the third minus 4 times 4. 4 to the third is 64 minus 4 times 4 is 16. So that gives me 48. Okay, so that goes here. Slope formula, 48 minus 0 over 4 minus 2. That's 48 over 2, which is 24. That's all you box. Okay? All right, number 9. So here's your equation. Okay, so question A, they're asking you to find f of negative 1. Well, this is equation 1, this is equation 2. That would be equation 1 because -1 is less than 0. So I'm going to go 2 times -1 plus 3. That's -2 plus 3, which is a 1. Done. That's how you write it. Question B, find f of 0. Well, that's this guy because it has an equal sign. So that's 1/2 times 0 plus 3, which gives me 3. Question C, find f of 2. That's this guy. So -1/2 times 2 plus 3. If you're struggling with how to do that, just grab your calculator. Here's how you push it in. The white negative button, 1, divide 2, parenthesis 2, close it, plus 3, enter, and you get a 2. So that's what that is, and you're done. Now they want us to graph it. Okay, the first one is y equals 2x plus 3. So I'm going to go up 3, make a dot, and then I'm going to go up 2 right 1, down 2 left 1. Okay, looks like that. But that whole thing's not supposed to be there. The only thing that's supposed to be there is less than or equal to 0. Well, there's your 0. Less than is to the left. There's no equal sign. I said equals, but there is no equals. So this is actually an open circle. Be very clear. Draw an arrow. Okay? Next one. Y equals -1/2 x plus 3. So I'm going to go up 3, make a dot, so I'm hitting at the same point. Down 1, right 2. Down 1, right 2. Down 1, right 2. So it looks about like that. The only values I'm supposed to keep are those that are greater than 0. So that is to the right of the 0. So I get rid of all this stuff over here. A closed hitting an open is closed. There's my answer, and I'm done. Okay, question 10. Here's your equation. Here's your other equation. Okay, question A, f of -2. So you have to decide, is that less than -1 or greater than -1? Okay, well, a -2 is less than a -1. So I'm going to go 2 times -2 minus 1. That's a -4 minus 1, which is a -5, and you're done. Question B, find f of -1. Well, that's got an equal sign. Be careful, so it's -1 squared. Negative squared is positive, 1 squared is 1, but you've got a negative out in front of it. Question C, f of 0. 0 is bigger than a -1, so it's right there. That's a -0 squared, which is 0. Question D, find f of 2. 2 is greater than -1. And so I use that equation. So it's -2 squared. 2 squared is 4. Put a negative in front of it. Done. Okay, let's graph it. So the first thing I'm going to graph is y equals 2x minus 1. So I'm going to go down 1, make a dot, and then I'm going to go up 2, right 1, up 2, right 1, down 2, left 1. There's your graph. Okay, the stuff that stays is anything less than a -1. So here's a -1. So less than is to the left. Anything to the right goes away. And my endpoint should be open like that. Okay, because there's no equal sign. Okay, y equals -x squared. Pencil at the origin. It's a parabola that opens down. Right 1, down 1. Left 1, down 1. Right 2, down 4. I don't know for sure what that value was. Let's see. Down 1, down 2. Yeah, my units are just kind of not very accurate, my markings, but you get the idea. So it looks like this. Parabola that opens down. I have an equal sign, so it's closed. Okay, that's it. Okay, number 11. Graph this using transformations. Find the domain and the range. Okay, so y equals x to the third. So on the test, I'll give you multiple grids. Okay, so a cubic looks like this. So I want you to just take a quick second and graph the parent. Okay, pencil at the origin, right one up one, left one down one. The next step is 2, 8. So I'm just going to make it very steep. Okay, then if you look at that graph, what are the transformations? Well, the +1 goes up 1, the -2 goes left 2. So I'm just going to follow this point right here, guys, okay? So I'm going to go up 1, left 2, and there is that point. And then the stretch is normal. So I'm going to go right one up 1, left one down 1. The next one's 8. So I know it's going to be super steep. So it looks like that, okay? Find the domain and the range of the final graph. Domain, go from left to right, touches everything, all real numbers. The range, start low, move up, touches everything, all real numbers. Okay, number 12. Okay, number 12 is the other method. So the graph that they give you, you guys, contains the point -1, -3. That is a turning point. It also contains the point, they didn't list it, but I'm going to list it, 0, 0, not a turning point, 1, 3, turning point, and 2, 0, not a turning point, okay? Now it looks like that value is wrong. Oh no, that's okay. So it does hit a 2, 0, and it also hits a -2, 0. So the one they wanted you to follow was that one, okay? So here is your equation. I must see this x becomes y becomes. So right here affects the x, but the x lies, so x becomes x minus 2. Make this whole f of x a y, and that's your formula for y. So y becomes -2y. So let's change these points, keeping in mind that the first and third points are turning points. So take your x's and subtract 2. -1 minus 2 is a -3. 0 minus 2, -2. 1 minus 2, -1. A -2 minus 2 is a -4. Now take the y's and multiply by -2. So this gives you a 6, a 0, a -6, and a 0. You guys, we do have a negative. So do you see on the parent graph how the end behavior is left upside down? If you have a single reflection, then that changes. So the left is down and the right is up. Okay, so let's graph this. So I'm going to go left 3, up 6, put a dot, and I know that's going to be a turning point. Okay, then I go left 2, don't go up or down. That's there, but it is not a turning point. -1, -6, right there, and that is a turning point. And then -4, 0, over here, not a turning point. Okay, I know I end down, so I'm going to go down, come up, hit it, turn, hit that guy, don't turn, hit that guy, turn, come up, looks like that. Okay, now if this were my graph, just so you guys know, I'd be careful like where this actually hits the y-axis, because you don't want it to be, you know, skewed. So this is -1, -6, which was the original 0.13. And if you look at that from that 0.13, I went right 1, down 3. So this one is going to be right 1, up 3. So I actually did that pretty well. So anyway, I would just be a little careful with that. Okay, question number 13. Okay, write the equation that represents the graph. Well, obviously, it's an absolute value. Okay, and what are the transformations? It's shifted right 1. It's shifted up 4. And it has a vertical stretch of 3, because I went right 1, down 3. Oh, and it's reflected across the x as well. So reflected across the x goes there. A stretch of 3 goes there, so I did both of those. Right 1 goes inside. It's the opposite of what you think. Up 4 goes right there. There's your answer. Okay? Number 14. So this is important, guys, that you understand it says without putting it into vertex form. So you do not complete the square. So this is going to be negative b over 2a. So that's negative 6 over 2 times 1. That's 6 over 2, which is a 3. So I know my vertex is 3 comma something. And then I'm going to go f of 3 is 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 3. You guys look at the work that I'm showing. That is exactly what you have to show. So make sure you have everything that you need on there, okay? Okay, this gives me a negative 6. So now I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go right 3, down 6, and that is my vertex. This is a parabola that opens up, because that's a positive, with a normal stretch. So I'm going to go, let me move that 3 over just a little. Okay, so I'm going to go right 1 up 1, left 1 up 1, right 2 up 4, left 2 up 4. The next one would be 3, 9, because 3 squared is 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It would be 7, 8, 9. So it actually hit there and there. So I just did a lot of points because I wanted to get an accurate y-intercept. Okay, looks like that. They want to know the vertex. I wrote that. The axis of symmetry is always x equals the x coordinate of the vertex. If you don't have the x-intercept or the x equals, you won't get anything. Where does it hit the y-axis? What is the y-intercept? That would be 0, 3. That's it. Okay, question 15. Sketch this graph. Okay, so it's y equals negative x plus 3 squared minus 2. So the first thing I want you to do is to just quickly graph a parent. So pencil at the origin, right 1 up 1, left 1 up 1, right 2 up 4, left 2 up 4. There's your parabola. If you have a transformation, I want you to take the transformation by itself, okay? So just because that's how they're going to want you to do it, I think. So right here, if you have a reflection, sorry. So that negative right there tells you to reflect across the x, not the y. So it looks like that. Okay? I don't have a stretch, so now I'm just going to do everything else, which would be down 2 and left 3. Okay? So I'm going to take that graph, and I'm going to go down 2, left 3, there it is. Normal stretch, right 1 down 1, left 1 down 1, right 2 down 4, left 2 down 4. Looks like that. Okay, that's all they want. Okay, question 16. So I have seen this on Weber State's test before. So you have to know the steps. Step 1, get that absolute value alone. 4 comes over and becomes a negative. Divide by a negative 2, and I get a positive 5. I split it into 2. Then I solve. Move my 1 over, it becomes a positive. That gives me x equals 2. Move my 1 over, it becomes a positive, and that gives me x equals negative 4/3. That is an acceptable way to write it. and this is also an acceptable way to write it. Okay, that was 16. Okay, here is 17. Put this in vertex form. So you have to complete the square. It's not going to say complete the square on the test, just so you guys know. Step 1, pull the 4 over, add blanks. What I have on that right side now is this. I'm going to take out a -3. When I take out a negative, negative positive goes to positive negative. 3 divided by 3 is a 1x squared. 6 divided by 3 is a 2x. I've seen a couple of people close their parenthesis right there. That is not correct. The parenthesis goes after the blank. So like that, okay? 2 divided by 2 is a 1. 1 to the second is a 1. To balance it, -3. So you go y plus 1 equals -3. Put your x in. There's your minus. Square root of 1 is 1. The whole thing's squared. Pull your 1 over. It becomes a negative. And there you go. Okay? Okay, they want the vertex, which is +1, -1. Axis is symmetry. X equals 1. The maximum value, that's y equals the y coordinate, which is -1. Now let's graph it. I know it's strange, but on these you can just do it all at once. So this is going to be right 1, down 1. That's my vertex. I know it opens down with a stretch of 3. So it's going to be like this. Left 1, down 1. Or left 1, down 3. Right 1, down 3. Looks like that. Okay? All right, number 18. Find the domain. Do I have a fraction with an x on the bottom that is not an even root? No. Do I have an even root on the top? No. Do I have an even root on the bottom? Yes. So you take the inside, and that must be greater than 0. It cannot be equal to 0 because you can't have a 0 on the bottom. Move your 4 over, divide by 3. There's your answer. They didn't tell me how to write it, so that is totally sufficient. Okay, number 19. Okay, so a lot of you guys have been struggling with this. So look, it doesn't matter if it says f minus g, f plus 3, f plus g, times g, who cares? Just take those two domains and put them on the same grid. Okay, so -5 is here, closed circle, shaded to the right. The next one is +3, closed circle, shaded to the right. I have to choose the region that satisfies both conditions. This region does not satisfy that. If I chose a 0, 0 is not bigger than 3. So this is not part of the solution because it doesn't satisfy both conditions. So it's just 3 and bigger, which just ends up being that one. So your answer in set builder notation is x such that x is greater than or equal to 3. Close it off. Done. That was kind of funky. Done. Okay. Number 20. Find the difference quotient. Okay, here is your f of x. So I'm going to go, here's my formula. So right here and right there, I'm going to put in x plus h. So it's 2 parentheses, x plus h squared, minus parentheses, x plus h minus 3. Sometimes I tell you not to do the parentheses around the x plus h because you don't need it, but right here you need it because that negative is going to be distributed, okay? And then you subtract in parentheses all of f of x and you divide it by h. When you simplify this, you guys, you have to keep writing that divided by h. You can't just like do this, do that, pull it all together. No. Okay, so this right here, I'm going to FOIL. And I'm going to actually just FOIL it right there. That gives me x to second plus 2hx plus h squared. Now I'm going to distribute the 2. So you have 2x squared plus 4x plus 2h squared. Distribute the negative. Negative x minus 8. H. You have your minus 3. distribute the negative, negative 2x a second plus x plus 3. See how I wrote the whole line all over h. 2x squared minus 2x squared, 3 minus 3, x minus x. So now I have 4hx plus 2h squared minus h over h. Everything has an h. So take an h out of everything, and I have 4x plus 2h minus 1, and I'm done. Okay, that was 20. Here is 21. Okay, write the equation in this graph. So obviously it's a parabola. Okay, it's shifted right 1. It's shifted up 3. It is reflected across the x. Now, maybe a better way to say that is that it opens down. And the stretch is normal because it went right 1, down 1. Okay, so I'm going to go y equals. It opens down. That's supposed to be right there. Then I have to do a parenthesis. Right 1 means x minus 1. It's a parabola, so it's squared, and it's up 3. So this is opens down, right 1, up 3. Okay? Okay, question 22. So this question came up on a midterm or a final, and tons of my students missed it. Okay, so it says find the x-intercept. Well, you find the x-intercept when y is 0. But I have 2 equations, so I don't know which equation to use. Okay, so guys, look at that, 2x plus 1. I'd go up 1, make a dot, up 2, right 1, down 2, left 1, like that. Okay, I'll do it in red. But that's only supposed to be there if x is less than a negative 1. So less than a negative 1 is over there, right? So that's the piece of the graph, and my circle would be open. You guys, there's no y-intercept on that graph. It's because I'm cutting off the right. So this is not it. So it's going to be x to the second minus 3x minus 10 equals 0, y equals 0. Now this is even more tricky. So look, x and x, 10 goes to 5 and 2. Signs are different. Biggest is the negative, and I get x equals negative 2 and positive 5. That is not right either. Okay, the reason that's not right is because this parabola, which is shifted down 10, by the way, and you don't have to know how to graph it, it's fine. I know that if x is 0, y is a negative 10. This is a parabola that opens up, you know, so it's going to be something like this, right? But yes, it hits at a negative 2, but I've cut off that part because negative 2 is not bigger than negative 1. So that answer is not valid. The only answer is 5, 0, and that's where it's going to hit it right there. Okay? Okay, that's it. You guys are awesome. Good luck on your test, and sorry I'm not here.